think we're live. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for joining me here today. My name is Adrienne Bradley from Thriving Childcare. And thank you for joining me here today. I'm your host for the Daycare Q&A Show. And I usually start the show by saying, if you are joining me live, please send me some hearts and likes so I can see you. I have my laptop open over here just in case for some reason I can't see the comments here, but right now I can see them, so maybe I'm getting better at this. I don't know. I don't know if I go that far. But anyway, if you join me live, please send me some hearts and likes so I can say hi to you. And if you're catching this on replay, please put hi in the comments so I can come back and say hi to you as well. So let's see. Okay, so I'm open over here and we're good to go. Okay. So today is January 17th, 2024, and this is episode 28 of the Daycare Q&A Show. So I usually start with a little bit of housekeeping, and I don't know, maybe this gets old hat, but I just want to let you know that my dogs, I have two little dogs, and they are inside right now. It's kind of dreary here. I'm in California, Southern California. It's kind of dreary here. We're expecting rain later this week, I think. Hopefully. My daughter lives up in Oakland, and she told me yesterday it was raining pretty hard. So we're probably going to get some of that. I just hope it's not today. But anyway, so because of that, the dogs are inside. I'll let you know that just in case they decide to talk and say something to you for some reason. But anyway, so there's that. Secondly, I usually mention a disclaimer here that anything we talk about here and the advice and opinion that I may give here is based on my own experience over 20 plus years as a child care provider and daycare owner. But or it could be someone who was close to me or is close to me in my network that has had a similar experience. So I'm going to draw from that background for anything that I would say here. But your business is your business. So if something doesn't vibe with you, then just take what works and leave the rest. I know that not everything is for everyone. I'm just here, or we're just here to give you another spin on something, maybe give you another outlook that you might not have considered. I know sometimes when we get into the situations, even just in life, when we're in the thick of it, we can't really think clearly sometimes, or we can't think past what we're dealing with and maybe give it enough thought. And sometimes if you heard somebody mention that they went through something, I know my friends have said, when I've shared things with them, that if they ever were in that situation, then they would consider what I had said, just to give them some kind of perspective, you know what I mean? So anyway, but same thing here. And although I haven't said this in a while, but although I love a rant, I truly do. Sometimes we need to just get it out. I love a solution more than a rant. So that's the other thing we're here to do, is to give you hopefully some solutions to some things that you might be dealing with as a childcare provider, or you might be dealing with it in the future, or you might be able to avoid dealing with it, hopefully. So anyway, so take what works and leave the rest. Okay, it's probably for someone else. All right. Let's see. Okay. And I want to remind you, if you are joining me live, or even if you are catching this on replay and you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat or put it in the comments. And if you're joining me live, I'll try and come back and answer that after the questions that we have for the show. I'll try and come back in and answer it. If we run out of time, then I'll come back in afterwards and answer it. And if you're catching this on replay, go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'll come back in and answer your question. All right. Lastly, if you have to leave early, our episodes are, well, first of all, I leave them here until we move them over to our YouTube channel. So I've been a bit behind getting it uploaded over onto the YouTube channel. I have to admit, I getting slow starting this year, but I'm gonna get caught up. But until then, if you need to catch the replay, it is right here on the page. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see what's going on in the Thriving Childcare universe. Okay, so today, our episode is sponsored by the Provider Planner and Organizer. That's our Stripe version behind me. That is our luxury planner just for childcare providers. And right now, the planner, you can get 20% off of the planner. I put a code in the comments or in the chat here, so you can grab that code. I can't remember what it says. What is it? What's the code? Let me see if I can scroll down. Oh yeah, okay. It's 20 off planner. So that's 20. What is it? OFF. I can't talk. OFF planner. PLANNER, and you will get 20% off of the planner right now. And we're offering free shipping. So this is a great time to get your planner. I say this just about every week, but it is, it's still the new year. You can get your planner, and by next week, start putting in all the different things that you want to do for your business in your planner, and start laying out a plan to actually get that accomplished, so that by the end of the year and by this time next year, you have progressed in what you want to get done for your business and even your personal life, So go ahead and click the link. It's in the chat, and it'll take you over. You can take an actual 3D flip through of the planner, and remember, you can use that code and get 20% off. And right now we have free shipping as well, so it's a great time to get your planner. All right, let's see. And lastly, this week I wrote on the blog. By the way, I am the author of the thrivingchildcare.com blog. And this week I wrote on 3 must-do things for a childcare provider, what you need to do every year. So 3 must-do things a childcare provider needs to do every year. And there's a link to the post in the chat. But really, just like I was saying, it's the beginning of the year, and we usually have so many plans and things that we want to get accomplished in this brand new year. But when it comes to your business, there are a few things that you should do every year. And if you just did those 3 things, it would increase your business. It would at least give you a direction for getting those things accomplished this year. And I've highlighted it in this week's post, so go over and check it out. Remember, we do have a new feature where you can actually listen to the post. You don't have to sit and in case you don't have time, like me, I'm always multitasking. So if you're making lunch for the kids, or you're running errands, or you're sitting there and it's nap time and you want to catch up on some of the blog posts, you can go over and listen to them. So right at the top of each post this year, you can click the audio and listen to the post. So I don't know about you, but I do I listen to books that way. And like I said, I listen to my podcast when I'm running around doing errands on the weekend. So if you'd like to use that, and I would love to know what you think about that type of feature, and if you would use it more than whether or not you have time to sit down and read, would you use that feature? So go over and check it out. Like I said, the link is in the chat to that blog post. But yeah, check out the 3 things that just about every childcare provider should do every year. Okay? And come back and let me know. Let me know what your take is on that, and what you'll be doing this new year. Let's see. Okay, So before we get into the questions, I am going to go to the planner like I do every week, and I'm going to look to see if there's some observances that maybe we can build a curriculum around, or a project, or sometimes even a meal, based on some national days that a lot of us don't know anything about, or don't even know exist. So there were a couple on the 15th. I think there's a lot that double up, but since the 15th was Martin Luther King Day, we didn't really get into that, but you can check out in the planner. There were a couple of other days on the 15th, National Hat Day and National Strawberry Ice Cream Day. We're also on the 15th of January. But tomorrow, which is the 18th of January, is National Winnie the Pooh Day. Did you know that? It's National Winnie the Pooh Day. I'm not making this up. You can look it up. You can Google it. Tomorrow is National Winnie the Pooh Day. So I'm sure you can think of things you can do for that day. Maybe, of course, read a story about Winnie the Pooh. Maybe even talk about, maybe you can look it up and see what the inspiration was for Winnie the Pooh. That would be fun to know. Maybe you want to talk about honey, his favorite snack. And maybe you can find, I don't know, honey's kind of one of those things. I don't know, you might need to be careful with that. But if I don't know, I'm not even going to touch on that. I'm not even going to touch on whether you should make a dish with that. I'm not going to even touch on that. But you can talk about honey. You can talk about where honey comes from, and you can talk about bears. I mean, there's you can have them maybe draw Winnie the Pooh. I don't know. There's lots of stuff you can do for National Winnie the Pooh Day tomorrow. And then on Friday is National Popcorn Day. So that would be fun to, I don't know, talk about popcorn. What is popcorn? Where does it come from? And maybe, now that would be a good snack item to create, maybe a popcorn ball, or maybe you can find another recipe that the kids can make. I mean, that would be a really good sensory activity, wouldn't it? So Friday's National Popcorn Day. Even if you just had plain popcorn, I mean, of course, depending on the age of your children. But when I worked at a daycare center many, many years ago, they offered that as a snack, and I was like, that's a pretty good snack. I love popcorn too. So those are the days of the national days this week. So check them out in the planner. And yeah, so let's get into some questions here today. Let me see if I got anybody joining me here. Let's see. I'm going to scroll up. See, because I cannot see the comments. I can't. Okay. So let's see. I don't know why this interface has to be so difficult. So, okay. So I don't see any comments. I do see that somebody's joined me. Say hi to me so I know who you are, okay? All right. Let's get into the questions today. So, like I do every week, I have a question that I ask you. And this week, I'm going to ask you to type in the chat or type in the comments what I want you to name one of your top business rules. Okay? So whether you're new or a seasoned provider, I'm sure you have had enough experience to have at least a few rules when it comes to your business. So share with us, let us know. Maybe we could adopt one of your rules, and if you want to explain why that's a rule for your business, that would be great too. But yeah, put in the chat, put in the comments one of your top business rules for your childcare business. Okay, maybe it is like mine years ago, and I talk about a lot, is that I don't accept late childcare payments without a fee. Maybe that's the top rule. Maybe that's that was my rule because I had such an issue with getting tuition on time. So I created a rule for myself, and I've talked about writing about creating internal policies, and it was something that I discussed with a colleague of mine. I think last year, maybe the year before, and I discussed with her what I felt were internal policies and what that meant. And basically what that is having a policy that is just for you, like you're the an executive policy. You know how sometimes you'll see forms and they say that it's just for the officials, this part of the form? Well, the internal policy is for you. It's a policy that for you to pay attention to, okay? It's not necessarily for the public to see or to follow. It's for you, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna make a note to finally address that, because I think it would be good. It took me a long time to realize that I needed to have internal policies when it came to my business, and basically it was things that I referred to that kind of kept me in line with what I wanted to achieve in my business. So whether it was communicating with parents, whether it was making exceptions, all of that stuff, I needed to realize that I needed some internal policies for myself that I could check in with before I made impulsive decisions that I regretted. So at some point I'm gonna write about that. But yeah, go ahead and type in the chat, type in the comments one of your top business rules. We would love to know. Okay, so let's get into the questions. The first question today it says, "Hey Adrienne, need some friendly advice here. I've been in the childcare game for a while. Started off as a preschool teacher and now I'm doing the in-home care thing. Back in the classroom, I was the energetic teacher. Kids loved it. But now flying solo, I sometimes feel like my energy and patience are taking a hit. I absolutely love what I do and I know it's super important, but I'm struggling to keep the spark alive. Any tips on finding joy in the everyday grind? I'd really appreciate your insights." Okay, so what would you tell this provider? I've been there. A lot of us have been there, and what we refer to it as is provider burnout. And I've even written about it. I'll come back in and leave a link to a few articles that talk about recognizing provider burnout, what to do about it. So I'll put that, I'll come back in and leave those links. But a lot of us get to this point, and especially if we are flying solo, and meaning that we're the one and only employee in our business, so we do everything, we have all the hats. And I think that before we make the leap to our own business and flying solo, that's not something we truly can absorb and understand what that means. I've talked about before how I thought my background in corporate America was going to give me a leg up when it came to starting my own childcare business, because I was very business oriented and I knew, very, professional protocols and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, not so much, because when I was in corporate America, there were people supporting me that I didn't even realize were supporting me. There was an HR department, there was a supervisor, there was a this, there was a that. There were all these people that were behind the scenes. There was a janitor. Okay, there were all these people behind the scenes that were supporting my job. And when I left that and came home to start my business, or even if you're starting in a center, you absorb a lot of those functions and a lot of those hats that I was just talking about. And it can be overwhelming. I mean, I can remember thinking that I was working either in or on my business 7 days a week. And when you think about the fact that the average provider works 10 hours in their business on a daily basis, that's a lot. I told you before that I figured out one time that it came up to something like 2.5 extra weeks at the end of the year when you added up all of the extra time that we work. Except, hi Deborah Hurley, she's here. Hi Deborah, thanks for coming back. Thanks for being here today. So I was just talking about how, we don't realize all the different functions we have to do. Paperwork, buying groceries, like I said before, as far as janitorial, we have to clean, we have to buy supplies, we have to lay out curriculum or at least projects and activities. It's a lot. It is a whole lot. And like I said, I was working on or in my business 7 days a week. And it was overwhelming. I was burnt out, just burnt to the ground out. And just like this provider is saying that she's kind of lost the joy that she had when she was a preschool teacher. It can happen. So I first want to just acknowledge the fact that a lot of us go through this. And Deborah, let me know if you ever suffered with provider burnout. But she's asking for advice on how to manage that. And my first thing would be to say, look at your schedule. Like I just said, I was working on or in my business 7 days a week. And if that's you, if that's something similar, look at your schedule and see where you can maybe make some tweaks, because it sounds like you don't have enough downtime, and that was the case with me. I did not have enough downtime. I was running around and I was just exhausted, and that can definitely dampen your joy because you're tired. And so make sure that you are building in during the week, I would say every day if you can, some me time, some self-care. And I know a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of providers that I talk to, and a lot of providers that ask for advice. They're talking about issues that surround the need for self-care, but we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about it enough in the beginning when we start our business, because I think if you set up habits from the beginning, then you follow through with them more versus, years and years pass and now you have to incorporate this. But it is so important to have time to yourself, downtime, where you're not thinking about your business, where you're thinking about concentrating on something you want to do. Maybe that, if you're like me, I want to read more books this year. For me, that means I'm going to be listening to the books, like I was saying about the feature on the blog, where I can listen to audio. That way I can still do other things. I can be driving in the car and listening to books, but I want to lay out a plan for me to read more books, so at the end of the year I can look back and say I accomplished that, and that was something that I wanted to do. Had nothing to do with my business. Maybe the topic, maybe it did, but to find time at least every week, if not every day. Maybe you're going to sit down and you're going to read an affirmation. Maybe you're going to meditate on that. You're going to think about that. Last week, I put up a post that had 50 affirmations just for childcare providers. And I'll come back and leave a link to that as well. But we need a lot of self-care. We spend a lot of time caring for other people, our families, and then our clients, and then the children. We need to care more for ourselves, because if we get burnt out, like this provider sounds like she's headed, and like I was, then we can't we can't be the best person. We can't be our best selves. We cannot care for other people if we're not caring for ourselves. So figure out, and I think I talked about this earlier in the year, figure out what those things are that you love to do. Make a list of 10 things. And then I'm going to challenge you to every week at least taking one of those things and doing that for yourself. Maybe they cost money, maybe they don't cost money. But, you know, to just be faced with Monday and all you did all weekend was shop for the childcare, set things up, clean for childcare. It can wear on you. It really can. So that's my advice. Some of that might be setting up boundaries with parents, and we're going to talk about that in another question as well. But let me see what. First of all, I want to say to whoever's joining me, I want to say hi. Let me see. Can I see this? Oh my goodness. Let me see. Let me go down because I can see it over here. For some reason, I don't know what's that. All right. Deborah Hurley says, it's a hard thing, burn out. I do frequently change I do frequent changes to my programs, whether it's a change to my daycare layout or maybe a change my routine schedule or curriculum to keep it from being monotonous. For me, it keeps the excitement, and the kids like changes sometimes too. You know, that's really good. That's really good, Deborah. That's good advice, because yeah, they can get bored, and then you can. And let me tell you, when you have a bunch of bored children, it's the worst. So not listening, they might be acting out, and they're just bored. So thinking about different ways to refresh your business. Maybe you do themes. Maybe at least once a quarter, you kind of switch things up, change things out. Like she said, that's really good advice. That would make it interesting for both you and the kids. Okay. It says, even if you cut out half an hour of your day, it helps too. Exactly. So she says, I've been there with burnout, and you've got to make some changes. You really do. Because you know what will happen? Excuse me, 1 second. Let me get some coffee. You'll want to quit. That's what will happen. Or you'll hate your business. Or you'll be in the bathroom in the morning crying. And I know, because that was me. So even little changes make a difference. Like she's saying, to cut out a half an hour. That might mean, you know what that might mean for a lot of providers? That might mean making sure that you don't allow the kids beyond the time that they're supposed to be there. Okay? Yeah, and I talked before, I mean, some people think that's harsh, but most of us have licenses that are specific times, and we're not supposed to go beyond that time. So maybe that means enforcing that overtime rule, that, you know what I mean, that lets the parents know, listen, you're going to start getting hit with fees. And I'm telling you, at least for me, I know that not everybody's business is the same, but at least for me, when I started doing that, I got complaints all up and down. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to pay more. And so comply with the rules. The rest of the world is like that. Everything else in our life is like that. There's a penalty if you break the rules. And that's just the way it is. I mean, it would be that way when the kids go to school as well. Okay? But let me see what else Deborah says. Keep inventories of toys to change out every couple of months. At that time, to keep the kids from getting bored. This will help for certain. That is a great idea. I did that one time. I bought like a really big bin from, I think I got it from Home Depot. And it was one of those big, big storage bins, right? And it was weatherproof, so it could go outside and it could just be there. And I switched out a lot of the toys, because you accumulate a lot of stuff when you have childcare, right? So I took out a lot of stuff, put in that bin, And then after several months, kind of switch things out, put other stuff in that bin. And she's absolutely right. That will make it kind of new and exciting. Something else I did, I mean, just little things can make a difference, even when it comes to this. I remember when I was working at the center, they had a habit of maybe pulling out some things and putting them on the table. So when the kids arrived, maybe the dinosaurs are on the table. And it just kind of inspires them to start playing with the dinosaurs, something that is there all the time, but they don't think about because there's so much stuff. It's kind of like when you walk into a toy store, you know, you can't see the individual items or individual toys because of the mass of everything in there. And that kind of is what happens, I think, with our centers, our child cares. It's so much stuff that we amass that's maybe even hidden because we've got so much stuff. So yeah, think about making some changes, little changes that will make a big difference. And then first and foremost, make time for yourself. Make time for yourself because you are the glue that holds it all together. Okay? And if you fall apart, nothing else matters. Okay? So all those clients that you are trying to serve and that you love will not benefit from you having provider burnout, for you getting burned to the ground like I said I was. Nobody benefits from that. Not even your clients. They don't. So whether they think about it or not, I told the story. I'll tell this one more time. I had a client who switched jobs, and the new job was a big distance from his home and the child care. But the parents kind of swapped off, dropping off and picking up. And they didn't tell me until after the fact that he had taken this position that was quite a distance, quite a commute. And so consequently, he was late every day picking up the children. And I had 2 of his children here. And they were young, and they were the most rambunctious out of the whole group, I should add. But anyway, one day I was so tired. I was so tired. And he came and he said, "What's the big deal? It's just a half an hour." And I said, "You know, it's not just a half an hour. At the end of the week, it's 2.5 hours extra time." And I talked to him about knowing what time he was going to get off, and would he work when he didn't know when he was going to get off. And we got into this dialogue, and he finally understood what I was saying. Because, yeah, and the thing about it was, they don't even see the fact that I had started 11 hours earlier than that, you know? So it's long days and long weeks, and recognize that about your schedule. Recognize that about your position in your business, and give yourself some grace and start carving out that time. Maybe you might want to restructure your business hours. I know when I started, Deborah, let me know if it's the same for you, but when I started, I had the idea of being open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And yeah, that was too much. It was just too much. Because even though I eventually came up with or started using the 9-hour rule, and if you don't know what that is, I'll leave a link. I wrote about that as well. Most providers provide that, use that 9-hour rule, where there's a 9-hour window when your clients can use the child care. They can't use it the full 12 hours if you're open 12 hours. But even though I started using that in my business, it still was a long day because I had children that arrived early and children that arrived late. So the whole time from 6 to 6, I was working. I had children in my care, and it was too much. So eventually, over time, I changed that. And I changed that without always having to go and change it on my license. I just changed that in my own policies. Okay, so when a new family would come in, these were the hours of the child care. Okay. And I was still covered by my license being that long of a day, but no longer did I actually offer that. And if I occasionally over the years had a client that needed to come early, there was an extra fee for that. Or if they needed to stay a little bit late, there was an extra fee to that. So there's ways that you can work that out. But again, sometimes it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter the extra fee. You need to get off. And nobody's going to understand that more than other providers. But yeah, take some time, look at your schedule, see where you can make some changes, see where you can carve out some time for yourself, and think of different ways that you can refresh your business so that it is exciting to you again. And just do that this year, and you'll see a difference, like Deborah was saying. Okay? All right, let me get to the next question. Okay, it says, "Hey Adrienne, I've got a bit of a situation with some parents, and I could really use your advice. So I've got these two awesome kids, ages 4 and 6, and when their parents drop off or pick up, it's like a wrestling match in the middle of the hallway. They go at it for a good 10 minutes, and it's getting a bit disruptive and honestly a little embarrassing too. Other parents have to practically step over them, and it's getting the other kids all wound up too. I'm not sure how to bring this up without sounding rude, but it's becoming a bit much. Any thoughts on how I should handle this?" What would you tell this provider? What would you tell him? Okay. I can kind of relate to this. I had one family, although they didn't wrestle or go on like that. They were new parents, and they had twins, and I'm telling you, when they came to pick up the twins, it was like they had never seen them before, or they had been away from them for 6 months. They went on and on like they were exasperated to see their children. And I it's great that you are so excited and you want to let your kids know how much you love them, but it got to the point where they actually scared me one time because they gasped when they saw their child, and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Oh, well, we're just happy to see him." I'm like, "Okay." So, but I haven't had the situation where they've been wrestling or something like that. The only thing I could say similar that I had, because I had a few children over the years that had biting issues, and this one child in particular, in talking with the parents to try and deal with the situation, I found out that they play bit him at home. And so they were, without realizing it, kind of inciting this as a fun activity. Their child, they were sending out mixed messages. They weren't, or the child was getting mixed messages, because here it was bad, and then at home it was fun and playful and all this kind of stuff. So when I talk to them, and that's what it is, a lot of times as a childcare provider, you are in the unique position to educate the parents, and without being the all-knowing and being rude about it or anything. But sometimes it doesn't occur to them the effects of something, or they don't think far enough in advance about how this could be interpreted by their child. And the child is just kind of figuring out this world, right? So we don't want to send mixed messages. We want to be very clear about things. And so in that situation, talking to the parents really, really helped. I'm going to say in this situation, I would definitely talk to the parents. Now, another thing you could do is have the kids ready to go. If you figure out what time they're coming, I would have them ready and at the door. "Okay, bye. See you tomorrow." So you're that it's kind of like a joke, but when you say, "Oh, what's your hurry? Here's your hat. What's your hurry?" I know I'm butchering this. It's not saying it right. Or when you have maybe company over, and you pull out the the vacuum and you say, oh, so nice to have you guys here. You know, you're sending out hints. Now that may be a little too subtle, and maybe you need to be a little bit more, what's the word? You need to be a little bit more decisive about what you're saying. I know that's not the word, but you know what I'm saying. So maybe you need to say, you know what, here's the thing. Other kids could get hurt. You're wrestling on the floor. I mean, they could get hurt, and then they're on your property. This could be a whole liability issue. And I know that sounds like it could be extreme, but it can happen. Okay? One of the boys that I was telling you about a few moments ago that was, their father was picking him up late. I tell you, one day, right before he picked up, literally 5 minutes before, they had a habit of letting their children run around their house and do whatever. And of course, in the daycare, in the childcare, that was a rule that we didn't run in the house. Running was for outside. I had all the kids saying, running is for outside. Well, these kids were allowed to run at home. So when they got here, they thought, okay, well, I can run. You know, it was sending mixed messages. And this one little boy ran right into the wall. And right before his father came, big knot on his head. And his father was like, "Oh, mom's gonna be really upset." And I was so mad because I've been telling the children, but I was telling the parents too. You know, running is for outside. There's too many walls in the house that they can run into. They don't have brakes. One of my dogs, you know, he has the zoomies, and I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times he hit furniture and a wall and whatever. And I'm scared for him, and I was scared for the kids too. But when it comes, let's go back to this wrestling situation here. I would, if it was me, I would have the kids ready to go when the parents came, okay? And I would have them saying goodbye at the door, okay? Because, yeah, anybody got time for that? 10 minutes worth of wrestling on the floor, and you have other clients there? Yeah. They can do that at home. And then talk to the parents and say, you know, I really would appreciate if you would keep that type of activity at home, because the other kids can be rambunctious and they can want to be wrestling with each other, and somebody can really get hurt. So that's what I would do, and I would really do it soon, because you don't want to keep allowing this to become what goes on every time they drop off and pick up. You know what I mean? No. Let's maybe say goodbye at the door, and explain to the parents that, you know, this is kind of the transition during the day, so that they know, okay, now they're at the childcare and now they're going home, and, you know, just save that for when they get home. That's my opinion. Let's see. Did somebody else have any other opinion? Deborah, what do you think? Let me see. Let me see if anybody left any comments. Let's see. Okay, Deborah said, wait a minute. This is out of order. I don't know why it's out of order. Okay. Okay. I've been there in birth. Oh, she was saying that, Deborah's saying that she started from 6 to 6 as well, and then she moved to 7 to 5. And it felt like a vacation when I changed my hours. Oh, yeah, because that's 2 hours. And it may not look like much on paper, but let me just tell you, it means a lot. And again, if you think that 5 o'clock is unreasonable, what do they think about the parents? They're going to have to figure it out when the kids go to school. Okay? And they're probably going to have to pick up before 5. All right? Not always are there after school programs. And then she said set up some activity stations. Keep them busy, especially for drop-off. Okay. Keep them busy, especially for drop-offs. Like Play-O or dino digging excavation or perler beads or water table, etc. Love that. I have in my contract that there is a hands-off other kids policy. I don't allow wrestling and hitting. Now, you know why that is good that she just said that? Because if you have a policy, which you probably should, right? Then you can refer to it, right? So when we're talking about wrestling, because parents don't realize, they think that the situation's under their control, whereas in the child care, it is not under their control. And the other kids will see this, and like I said, you're sending mixed messages, and they don't know when to stop. They don't know that they're hurting someone. They can't really, they don't have really control of their bodies yet, right? So explaining that to the parents sometimes will wake them up, and they'll see, just like I was telling you about the parent that was play biting their son. Yeah, they didn't think about, oh wow, what if he goes to school and bites another kid? And that's exactly what happened. So sometimes be okay with educating them that, well, it is one of our policies. Just like I was telling you about that child that was running around, and to let the parents know, we have a policy. I had rules up. I had a whole poster of rules. You can actually get that poster, I think, in our shop. But rules that said, and one of them was running is for outside. Now, your child care probably has a bunch of different rules based on your business. But for me, I needed that because, like I said, I had parents that apparently allowed that at home. I have to tell you that one of the children really got hurt pretty bad. It wasn't at the child care. It was away from the child care. And Monday morning they showed up and they were just in bad shape. And I asked what happened. They said, oh, well, they were running. We were at church and they were running and they ran into a bunch of chairs and all the chairs fell over on him. So I don't need to tell you running in the house is not a good idea. But sometimes parents allow things that we don't allow in the child care, and it's based on the fact that, we're trying to keep the kids safe, and it's a liability. So in this situation with parents wrestling on the floor, yeah, that needs to stop, and you need to maybe inform them that, it's just not a good thing to be doing here at the child care. Welcome to do it at home. Think about the mixed messages, though, that they might be sending to their children about that type of activity, and keeping hands to ourselves and that kind of thing. So, hope that helps. Hope that helps. All right, we're going to get on to our last question so I don't run out of time. By the way, if you have any advice and you're watching the replay, please come into the comments and leave your advice for any of the questions. I'm not the only provider in the room, and maybe you have a different outlook, and we would love to hear it. So come into the comments and let us know. Okay, last question here. It says, Adrian, I need some advice here with a child in my care. So there's this 4-year-old boy that's been with me for about 3 weeks now. He's got this thing where he constantly screams out stuff like, help, I fell on a knife. Oh my God. Or the dog bit Maggie and there is blood. And get this, it's all a prank. He laughs when I come running. We've had serious talks about this, and even his mom giggled when I brought it up. Friday, he pulled the same stunt about choking a baby. There is no baby, by the way. And I had to call his mom. She tells me she can't pick him up because she'll get fired if she does. How do I handle the situation without it becoming a regular circus every time he's here? Any ideas? So what would you tell this provider? See, again, I'm wondering if it isn't just like what I was saying before about the biting. Is this something that he does at home? Because a lot of times they carry over the same behaviors when they come to childcare, and with the mom giggling and laughing about it, sounds like it's not a big deal to her, and it's something that they do at home. And that's fine, but not every behavior, and maybe this is something we should talk about at tours, not every behavior is going to be appropriate for our setting, okay? Maybe it's fine at home, okay? I once had a client who it was kind of like today, but it was a rainy day, and this is before I put artificial turf in the backyard. My husband did years ago, but before that, the grass was under a tree, so it never grew. So it was like a mud, well, when it rained, it became a mud patch. Okay, so consequently, the kids couldn't go out because I was like, So, um, I remember mentioning to the parents, oh, well, we're going to have an indoor day because it's a rainy day, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, no, I'm fine with them going outside. And I was like, well, I'm not fine with them going outside. Because they were going to track all that in. And I know some programs allow the messy time and everything, and that's great. That was not my program, right? That was not the setup that I had. So that was fine for when they were at home. They could go outside, they could put on their mud boots, they could put on their slicker or whatever, and that's fine, Mom. You only had the two to deal with. But I was going to have multiple muddy shoes and muddy clothes and all of that, and that's not something I had the time to deal with in this setting. So what was the question? Oh, okay. So getting back to the not being appropriate. Again, this is another situation where I think you're going to need to sit down with the parent. You're going to need to sit down with the parent and say, you know what, this is not safe. It's not safe for him to be saying these things because he could be hurt one time and I wouldn't even know because he's screaming these things out all day that aren't even true. Okay, so it's not a good thing. It is just like the boy that called wolf. Okay, and yeah, that's not a good thing for him to be doing, and especially dangerous stuff. He's not even just making something funny. He's saying dangerous stuff. I fell on a knife, or somebody's choking, or there's blood. I mean, the dog. That's my opinion, but. Again, this could be a situation where the parents don't see the big deal because they don't see the big deal. And maybe this is another opportunity to educate the parents and say, in this setting, that can be dangerous. The kids could all come running or go running from something that doesn't even exist, and they could run into him, knock him over. I've had that happen. It's not just fun and games because it's more than just him. Maybe at home, it's not a big deal because, it's just him. But again, you're sending mixed messages and those kind of things, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think if you run into a building and yell fire, I think that's prosecutable. Because you're putting people in danger. And I know that's an extreme situation, I know. But the fact of the matter is, on a lesser scale, that's kind of what he's doing. You could be dropping whatever you're doing and running to make sure he's okay and not be paying attention. It's just not good. It's just not good. So I would say talk to the parents. And Deborah said, yeah, he's seeing this somewhere. Yeah, exactly. Or he's being, or they're allowing it. And again, a lot of the behaviors that we see in the child care come from, behaviors outside of the child care, right? And kids don't necessarily come into this world knowing right from wrong, okay? Or knowing what's good and what's bad, or what could be hurtful or harmful. That's what we're here for. That's what their parents are here for. But when you're sending mixed messages, and that's something that I talk about with the parents, maybe at the tour, but definitely if I see some issues happening, But I'm going to say this, a lot of providers have what they call a probation period. And it might be something you want to think about adding to your program. And what I mean by that, sometimes it's hard to tell if a child or family is a good fit. And this isn't always just for us, it's for them as well. It could be something completely different than this. And having that time, that first month, that first 2 weeks, to kind of determine if this is the place that they want to be, that they, or that you can, that it's within your scope to care for this child, might not be a bad idea. It might not. And it might put you in a situation where it's not as uncomfortable to say, well, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if this is the best place for him. Maybe have some referrals. But I know what it's like to not want to turn away clients. I do. So the first action I would take is to sit down and talk to the parents and let them know how serious this can be, and that it's not something that this behavior is not something that you can put up with in this setting. Sorry, I think somebody next door is having some work done, so if you hear that noise, I am sorry. Let me see. Deborah says she has a 2-week probationary period. Exactly. I think that was in my contract. I think that it was the first month that anyone, either party, could say, okay, I don't think this is working out. And I had a couple of times when the parents felt that way. It's not always, not just like I said before about the advice here and whatever, it isn't always for everyone. It would be ridiculous for me to think that my business, just like any other business in this world, is for everyone. It isn't. I think I put a question up on the page today, and I think the question was, I'm not sure if I put that up or if it's coming up tomorrow. What is your ideal client? Do you know who your ideal client is? Hi, Denitra. Denitra Scott's joining us. It's okay. Thanks for coming. Do you know who your ideal client is? And when you say that, then that infers that there are people who are not your ideal client, and that's okay. And it could be as simple as this. I live in a certain state, a certain city, certain state, certain county, certain city, right? My ideal client would not be, I'm in California, my ideal client would not be somebody who lives in Nevada. That's pretty obvious, right? But there's also determining factors that are also not my ideal client. My ideal client is not somebody who needs overnight care, because that's not my business hours. So that's okay to say that, right? Then, if that's true, then there are going to be other things that are not going to be your ideal client, and that's okay. And I do know what it's like to feel like you're under the gun, or you're stressed out and you need clients. So turning away a client is definitely not something you want to do. Then get good at talking to them and vetting them at the tour, and get good at talking to parents and not feeling, of course you want to be respectful. Of course you're talking about their child. Nobody wants to hear bad things about their child or anything that is upsetting, but sometimes you're doing them a disservice by not saying something, okay? You're not letting them know what's going on with their child. And think of it that way. So finding a way to be respectful and have conversations with parents. Maybe you do role play. Maybe you want to role play with your assistant. Maybe you want to role play with your spouse. And, get comfortable. Get comfortable talking to your clients. Let them know when you enroll that you want this open dialogue, because you need to know if there's something going on at home. I've had several situations where there were divorces happening, and I'm not trying to get in their business, but it was affecting, the child was affected. Their mood was affected, and I could tell something was happening, and I didn't know what was going on. And so, keep this open dialogue and get comfortable. Because if you let it go, it becomes a habit, and then people want to know, what's your problem? We've done this forever. We've wrestled on the floor since we started. What's the big deal? No, that you as a business owner need to say, okay, there are some rules, okay, and maybe you change your mind like me. In the beginning, I was like, I thought it was all my responsibility. So I didn't fill in my clients on why this was this way and why this was that way. And I'm not saying you have to answer 20 questions, why and all of this. And I'm going to stop because we're running out of time. But at some point, I changed my mindset with that. And I did explain to them, you know what? I have a license with the state. And the state says that this can't happen and this cannot go on here. And I didn't have a problem with it. As a matter of fact, that's I think that's a good way to use licensing in your favor, is to say, no, this is not my rules. And maybe they wouldn't be my rules, but guess what? The state says they're rules. So we got to follow these rules. And that's it. Let me see if there's any comments. Let's see. Denitra Scott, I can't talk today, Denitra. Denitra Scott says, getting clear on my ideal client was scary for me at first, but now life is so good. Yes, it is. It is, because when you first look at that, you think that's going to eliminate people, and I don't want to eliminate people. I need clients. But when you get clear on your ideal client, and I will leave a link to an article I wrote about this a while back. When you get clear on who your ideal client is, then you can market directly to them, because you can figure out where they are and get in front of them, okay? As opposed to trying to get in front of the world and just taking whoever, okay? You can target your marketing efforts to that ideal client, okay? Deborah Hurley says, when you get stressed, say something. You will get burnt out faster. Exactly. And then you know what happens too is you internalize it and say, I should have said something. You know, and that happens a lot. That happens with our rates. That happens with a lot of things in this business. And then we turn it on ourselves. Denitra, I said, no, now I'm happy to eliminate people. Well, okay, let's not be. She's right, but she's eliminating the wrong people, so that's fine. That's fine. There are people who won't go to, and I pick on Target, right? And I'm going to stop. I have to stop. But there's people who won't go to Target because they're Nordstrom people. That's cool. The Nordstrom people, Nordstrom knows who their ideal client is, and they will market directly to them. Same thing for Target. Target knows who their ideal client is, and they will market directly to them. They are in business. You're in business. Know who your ideal client is, okay? Let me know if you want to do a workshop on that, because that would be fun. That would be fun. All right. All right. I think I've made it through the comments, and I've gone long, so I will stop today. Let's see. Remember, if you have any questions, you don't have to wait until next week's show. You can leave them here, and even if you can or cannot join me next week, I will answer your question on the show. Just go to thrivingchildcare.com/what's your question. That's thrivingchildcare.com/what's your question. Okay? And you can leave your question there, and I'll get to it next week. And that's it. That's it for the show this week. My name is Adrienne Bradley from Thriving Childcare. And again, thank you for joining me here, whether you're joining me live. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Denitra. Or you're catching this on replay. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your support. And I cannot wait to continue this incredible journey with you next week. But until then, keep thriving.